Hello and welcome to This Album with me, William Hann. It's the podcast where each episode a guest and I deep dive an album of their choice, and we're going to discuss the songs, the shows, the artwork, but we're also going to discuss the emotional attachment my guest has to the album. So sure, we'll discuss how it charted and where it was recorded. Any idea where this was recorded? It could be anywhere. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, there's no clue.
Yeah, but I want to know where my guest first heard it, what was happening in their life at the time, and what memories they attached to it. Who knows? We might even have a bloody laugh while doing it. Well, today I'm joined by a man that is not only the host of the hit podcast The Worst Time, but he's also responsible for bringing incredible amounts of joy to dance floors and festival stages with his truly fab mix of beats and Beatles samples. He's the man that knows his Yellow Submarines from his Come-Togethers, his Hey Judes from his Blackbirds, his Strawberry Fields from his Eleanor Rigby's, his Penny Lanes from his Paperback Writers. I could go on. I'm going on. His Golden Slumbers from his Fools on the Hill, and his Helter Skelters from his Octopus's Gardens. Clap your hands if you're in the cheap seats, or shake your jewellery if you're in the posh ones. It's Mr. Beatles Dub Club, Chris Arnold.
Wow. What an intro.
Yeah, right.
What an intro.
Reading that back, it's gone quite a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you very much for having me in your podcast space.
A pleasure, an honour, a privilege. How's life treating you, Chris?
Good, yeah, really, really good. It's Spotify Wrapped time
Big
of the
month.
year.
Big month.
Big month.
Talk to me. How's your Wrapped looking?
You know what? Over the last few years, it's been Beatles heavy. But they didn't make the top 5 this year, which indicates that I've had a bit of a break from the listening
or
to
a breakthrough.
A break from listening to them on Spotify. But yes, it was a heady mixture.
May I ask?
Quite a lot of podcasts actually. I think number 1, funnily enough, was Bedouin Soundclash.
I don't know Bedouin Soundclash. I remember seeing him support the Ordinary Boys.
Yes.
In about 2005.
Yeah. They basically, I've been a big fan of them for years. I think the last time I saw them was like
Reading. For such a long time. Wow.
Yeah. They toured again this year, and I saw them for the first time in maybe 18 years or so.
Wow.
So I went into a bit of a deep dive and listening to.
Is there much too deep dive? How much they released?
They released that first album with that big hit, which was in the adverts.
Remind me, what's it called again?
It's called When the Night Fills My Soul.
Yes. Remember JVT covered that as well.
Yeah. And they've actually released 5 or 6 albums since. Really good stuff.
Big recommend this early in the podcast.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Yeah. And a really
Abbey Road's not to your taste.
No, check out Bedouin Soundclash's latest album. Absolutely. Yeah, just been a big fan of them, and they don't tour that much. They're not that big, and it was really nice. I saw them in a smallish venue in Bristol.
Yep.
They played London and Brighton and did a tour of all the big cities in the UK. And clearly, I listened to a lot of them around about that time, so much so that they got bumped to the top spot. Yeah.
You had a similar thing. I remember in June, my most listened to artist was Coldplay, doing the full 6-7 album dive ahead of Glastonbury. Was it a month well spent? That's not for me to say, baby. That's not for me to say. But other than deep diving Bedouin Soundclash, what's else been happening for you lately?
Been kind of coming to the end of kind of the Beatles Dub Club kind of touring season, which I'm sure we'll chat about, and just sort of wrapping up the year. I got my wife's heavily pregnant, so I got my first child on the way in Jan, so that was sort of changed the game.
Me in today.
Yeah, no worries. It's still pretty, it's just sort of that waiting game. She's about 7 months pregnant at the moment, so still a couple of months to go until the due date time. So going to be a busy start to next year. So
no Beatles Dub Clubbing for at least a month or two.
Yeah, a couple of months off.
2025.
Absolutely. And then, you know what? You can't really plan these things, obviously, but it's worked out quite well because I'll probably get back to doing gigs again in April, and then summer is the busiest period.
I love when a plan comes together.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So for the uninitiated, why don't you let people know what Beatles Dub Club is and a bit more about what you do, Chris?
Yeah, so the Beatles Dub Club is basically, it's kind of a passion project. It was a passion project of mine, which is kind of wildly out of control. Basically, I've been a DJ, kind of a club DJ and festival DJ, playing bars, pubs, clubs, wherever, for many years, probably about 15 years now. Used to live in Sheffield. That's where I started doing it all. I now live in Bristol. And play all sorts of different stuff, from more ravey stuff to I used to have a residency in Sheffield where I play like 60s, 70s, 80s music in one of the rooms there. So really like playing all sorts of different genres. And also alongside that, always been a big Beatles fan, like many other people around the world. But I thought it was interesting that as a DJ, and there might be DJs listening who maybe agree with me on this one, like you don't often reach for their tunes when you're playing a party. Even when I played in that 60s, 70s, 80s room, which would have been prime for Beatles songs, they're not super like dance floor friendly. So it was about late 2019. I was in a big Deeples, a big Beatles dive, a deep Beatles dive, shall we say, and was listening to, and in fact I was listening to this album quite a lot of the time, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I thought, you know what, there's so many cover versions out there's so many remixes out there, I could probably make some of my own. I wonder if there's a fun festival DJ set, maybe an hour long, where I play the music of the Beatles in genres and styles that you haven't heard before. So big fan of reggae and dub and ska and Latin, hip hop, drum and bass, house. So those were kind of that's what I was looking for, that festival friendly sound. And I thought I think this could be a fun thing to do. And I thought maybe get me like free entry into a few festivals, always on the hunt for that sort of thing. And I messaged a few festivals late 2019 and got booked in for a couple in 2020. The response was...
How'd that go?
Yeah, well, the response was good, and people were like, oh yeah, we really like this idea. We can visualize it, you know, because sometimes I've done projects over the years where I've tried to pitch like comedy shows and people have been like, I don't really know what this is, Chris. Like, but with this, I called it the Beatles Dub Club. I thought 3 buzzwords, kind of a bit of an homage to bands like Gentleman's Dub Club and Dub Pistols who use that term. And and
it's quite ubiquitous, the term, isn't it? You can't quite. I remember seeing it on the lineups at Glastonbury and thinking, I don't know what that is, but I do want to find out. Yeah. And I mean, as you bloody know, Glastonbury's a big place. You can make all the guarantees in the world you'll be somewhere, but it all goes out the window pretty quickly, doesn't it? When logistics get in the way. But this year I managed to do it at Glastonbury. Yeah. So I managed to make my way to... I mean, was it 2 or 3 times you played this year?
I played twice this year. Like, I have played a couple of times over the years, like, over the various days. So I played twice this year. Did you come to the Saturday show at the Bimble Inn?
I was going to say, it was the Saturday I came to, yeah.
So that was good that you...
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, Thursday was amazing. I did like the Wishing Well, but it was pretty rammed and the speakers weren't too loud. So I did get quite a lot of people messaging me saying, oh, we couldn't really hear you. Whereas the Bimble Inn, Saturday, much... better sound.
I'm going to be a bit gushing now. Honestly, me and my mates had such a good time at that on the Saturday. My little brother had like a breakthrough. He goes like, honestly, man, just dancing. It's just so much fun, isn't it? It's so much fun. I want to dance all the time now. Yeah. And you got that out of him.
Great. Well, that, you know, it brings a lot of joy to people, you know, and yeah, to go back to sort of 2020, obviously, you know, those gigs never happened. Those festivals got cancelled, and then we got through kind of lockdown. And actually, by the time we came out of lockdown in 2021, because I never really got it off the ground, I wasn't really too sure about it. I was like, is this a good idea? It's all second guessing, yeah. And 2021, we had like mini festival season, kind of a little bit July and August, and a few festivals went ahead, including Green Man Festival. And the guy who runs Chai Waller's, guy called Sai, said, do you want to do your Beatles Dub Club thing? And I was like, yeah, let's see what happens. And I literally had a handful of tunes, like, you know, what you saw at Glastonbury this year was a bit more kind of prepared and been planned. But back then I literally just had a handful of tunes on a USB, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll get some people hanging around after the band that were on before me, or maybe, you know, come in early for the band that are on after me. But I got going Friday, 5 p.m, Chai Waller stage at Green Man Festival. And there was a lot of emotion in the air because lockdown had just been lifted, and people were, for a lot of people, it's probably their first festival in 2 years. And yeah, the tent just started filling up. And, you know, the only thing people had to go off was Beatles Dub Club in the program and a little blurb about what it was. The Fab Four, like you've never heard before, you know.
Is that what the line is?
That's what the line is. The Fab Four, like you've never heard before. It means
nothing. It could be anything, couldn't it?
Yeah. And maybe a few lines about the genres that I might play. And yeah, it just got busier and busier and busier. And then there was about 2,500 people. It was incredible. It was a really emotional time. the guy running the stage was like, "This is crazy." He was like, "Next summer, I've got 4 or 5 festivals where I'm running festival stages. Do you want to come and do them all next year?" I was like, "Okay." And then, as the years have gone on, it's just got more and more popular and more developed. I mean, Glastonbury has been an amazing part of the journey because they love it. Done the Thursday Glastonbury 2022. I did the Greenpeace tree.
But this is the thing. I feel like you've been playing it for donkey's years.
Yeah.
But it's only been the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Doing that Thursday slot at Glastonbury has become a bit of a tradition now. And
so let me start with there. Blink twice if you're back next year.
You know what? I can be honest with you. You never really know until much closer to the time.
God, you're
good
at this. You're media trained. You're very well media trained.
I actually, it's funny. I actually did a gig in Liverpool. I think it was 2023, where I said, "Who's going to Glastonbury next year? I'll see you there." And it turns out the guys who run the @Secret Glasto Twitter account were there, and they tweeted it the next day as like an exclusive thing, and then a load of people get a text message apparently whenever they tweet.
I've got my notifications on for Secret Glasto.
I had a few friends message me saying, "Why have I got a text about your t-shirt?" So you do have to be careful, but I honestly don't know yet. Usually it comes off, but a lot of the stages at Glastonbury don't really properly start booking until January, February at the earliest.
Right.
Because there's no real burning desire to get that lineup out there. They don't need to get it out to sell tickets. That job's more than done. So,
you have to want to catch zeitgeisty stuff as well sometimes, don't they? If something really sort of buzzy is going to happen the next couple of months, they need to be on top of it, not booking it 9 months, 12 months in advance, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And, there'll be certainly Emily Evis will be sorting out the headliners and some of those big acts and everything like that. But a lot of those smaller stages won't get the full details of their budgets and their ticket allocations, which is usually quite small.
I didn't know that.
Glastonbury's a beast. When you talk to people about Glastonbury, they often can't believe it, like the way it operates and functions. It's crazy.
It's a different role, isn't it, for them guys?
Yeah.
You've been going for a long time?
I've played at the last 5 of them.
Amazing.
And then before that, I'd been to a handful of them. So I think the first one I went to was 2013. So I didn't go to it for 8. I think I first started going to festivals in like 2005, 2006. Yeah. But it just always felt like a bit more admin to get to Glastonbury.
Because you've got to work for your fun. You've really got to work for your fun.
So I never got around to it. So I went in 2013 DJing, not Beatles Dub Club. It was way before that came up. And I did a few other things over the years. And then 2022, 2023, 2024, I had been booked to do the Beatles Dub Club stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you've got a big part of my Glastonbury's going forward, I think, Chris. So thank you for that. We could talk Glastonbury all day. Frankly, I'd bloody love to.
Yeah.
But we must get on to the point in hand. We are here to discuss an album. Chris, why don't you tell us which album we're discussing today?
Well, it had to be a Beatles album. When you asked me for this podcast, I thought it's got to be a Beatles album. And I thought I'd go with the one that I was really, really getting into around about the time of the conception of the Beatles Dub Club. I'm making it sound very high art now with the conception.
Great. Let's go.
But it is Abbey Road. And I love Abbey Road for a number of reasons. If I rewind a little bit, it's interesting. The sort of first Beatles album that I was very aware of as a kid, this is going to sound very Alan Partridge, but it was...
Dare I guess?
the
best of them.
The best of the Beatles. It was that album. It's called One. It's like all the number 1 singles. So my mum and dad had a copy of that.
2000 when that came out, I reckon?
Something like that, yeah.
99, 2000.
Yeah.
I remember that being in all my mum's mates' houses. We never had a copy at home. I mean, Auntie Jan had the copy. Auntie Jan had the copy. I remember that, yeah.
So I heard the songs on that album like a lot for like a long time, to the point where I almost overheard them. I mean, we've all must feel a little bit like we've heard the songs of the Beatles quite a lot, but I was only ever aware of like those those songs. And then over the years, it's been a very gradual thing for me with the Beatles. Sometimes I get into acts and I want to find out everything about them straight away. But with the Beatles, it's been a very, very gradual journey. There was a point where I was really into Sgt. Pepper's, and I thought that was the best, and I listened to that lots and lots and lots. And I hadn't really even massively dived into like Abbey Road properly until much, much later on. Since then I've listened to all of them quite a lot, and all the bonus ones that they're constantly releasing with all the, you can just hear like Paul and John chatting in the background of a studio for a minute.
I'll take it, man. I love it.
We'll take it as well, yeah. But yeah, Abbey, I got really big into Abbey Road, and that album is it's kind of mad for a number of reasons. You know, a lot of people do consider it like their best work, and it was their
Say it as if you don't.
Well, I do. It's my personal favourite. You know, over the years, it's my favourite Beatles album has changed. But right now, I would say Abbey Road. It's also like the last one they did. Like, how many bands will finish with an absolute cracker like that? Usually, you got the arc, haven't you, of a band's career, where you know they probably get together, they start releasing tunes, maybe they have a massive hit, and they ride high. They have their imperial phase, and then they kind of drift off. But with the Beatles, it kind of went up, and then it just was stratospheric, and then kind of from a critical point of view, they ended on like some of their best work, basically.
No doubt about it. And when I was doing some research, why I had to research Abbey Road, I'll never know. It's sort of ingrained in me for the most part, really. But I didn't know this. So obviously, 11th studio album by the Beatles, not the last they released, of course. Another one to come, even though it's recorded last. It stayed at number one for 11 weeks when it came out. It had a week off, and then went back to number one for another 6 weeks.
Okay.
Care to guess who had a little go at number one for a week?
That would have been more like 1969. Bowie?
You're on the right path. Big act.
Stones?
It's the Stones.
Was it the Stones?
It was Stones, yeah. Let It Bleed.
Wow,
They'll have a little go. A little crack at the whip for number one for a bit.
Yeah.
So out the way. It's Abbey Road.
Back in. That is interesting. Yeah, it was number one for a long time, wasn't it?
Bit too much in it, I think, really. You're getting into Bryan Adams territory there, aren't you, I think?
Yeah.
So obviously it's something that's always constantly been bothering the sort of top 100 album list of all time. What's the secret to this album's longevity, do you reckon?
I think it kind of was at a point where actually all of them were working the best together. I think a critical thing about this album is George's influence. He's got two absolute screamers on here. Here Comes the Sun and Something. Yes, and it's interesting in in the Spotify age, that is number one by a long way out of all their tunes, which I wonder, it'll be interesting if you could go to Paul and John in 1968 and just let like in 60 years 60 years from now there's going to be this streaming service. Don't bother asking us what streaming is, but there's going to be this streaming service, and which one of your songs do you think is like number one? It's neither of you guys. It's George. He's by a long way. I was looking at the stats today. It's like 1.5 billion or something like that for that song. And then I think the second one is Come Together, actually. So, Abbey Road right at the top there. But, George absolutely has really come through that. It's probably, one of the number of reasons why they broke up is he really wanted to have like a vessel to have a lot more of his tunes, basically. So
we can't really discuss all this without talking about Get Back, can we, really? So I think it was abundantly clear during that just how stroppy George was for it all, wasn't it, really? He had these clearly fantastic ideas that he just felt the constraints of them, right?
Yeah. And I read an interview. Apparently, John said at some point, if the Beatles carried on, they would maybe split the albums up, 25% each and that sort of thing. But
do you reckon Paul would have been up for that?
You just don't think it's going to happen, do you? But yeah, so I think his role and his tunes, not that the others didn't bring great tunes. There's some amazing John songs on there, some amazing Paul songs.
Octopus's Garden.
Octopus's Garden by Ringo, one of an absolute Ringo classic. That maybe the biggest Ringo number.
Little bit Help from My Friends. It wasn't written by Ringo, was it? That was
it's just sung by him.
Exactly. So there you go. That is the best Ringo one. Then definitely Octopus's Garden. It's really sweet actually in Get Back, isn't it? When he presents it to the band for the first time, it's just. How can you not love Ringo? The whole band just falls in love with him again the second he starts playing them chords. It's brilliant.
It was amazing when that came out. And you know what? The last few years, bearing in mind, as I just said, I kind of came up with the concept for the Beatles Dub Club stuff in 2019. It feels like the last 3 years we've been in a bit of a Beatles explosion. I think over the years they've been very popular at certain points and less popular. I think 90s with Anthology and Britpop being so huge, I think that was a really big time for the Beatles, and it feels like Paul headlining Glastonbury, Get Back. There's this other documentary that's just come out on Disney Plus.
There's movies in the way as well, aren't there?
Yeah. Barry Keoghan apparently playing Ringo. I saw
great, isn't it? It's going to be great.
If he could. He nailed the Scouse accent in Saltburn, so I'm sure it's going to be
underestimate Barry at your peril.
Yeah. So it feels like we're in sort of like a Beatles boom.
I'm all for it. I'm ready. I want to go back to two of the songs you mentioned. So you said Come Together and Here Comes the Sun. Two songs that I would have never, ever reached for. Yeah. I'm in the mood for playing Beatles. But I was in a covers band last year for my mate's wedding.
Okay.
And they were actually the two songs that we performed at the wedding.
Fair enough. How did they're quite, especially Here Comes the Sun, quite tricky to play that on guitar. How did that all?
Well, I was on the bass. I was out of harm's way, really.
Okay.
Really fun to play on the bass, actually. My friends definitely put themselves through it, and I enjoyed watching them squirm. But no, it was. I chose those songs. I've sort of learnt to sort of love them because I never sort of put myself into them before, and was quite surprised by how much I enjoyed them. They're so sort of synonymous. You can sort of like. They're just in the ether almost, aren't they? So the idea, it's like putting on Wonderwall, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to do it. Turns out Wonderwall's a really good song, right?
Yeah.
But listening back to Come Together this week, it's stunning how effortless they sound on that.
Yeah.
I think it's possibly the coolest John sounded throughout all the Beatles. But I know that song started as like a Chuck Berry style song. He's playing it a million miles an hour. And Paul's gone, no, slow it down.
Yeah.
Slow it down. And it sounds this effortless stadium filling noise, and we can't discuss Come Together without discussing the bass line, can we?
No.
Is it the best bass line of all time?
It's certainly up there. I mean, that the bass playing and then the drums.
Yeah, some of Ringo's best work as well, isn't it? Yeah,
is brilliant. I was reading up on the album beforehand, and apparently Ringo has since said that he went tom-toms mad on this album. It's just tom-toms everywhere. Just was loving the tom-toms. But yeah, it's an amazing.
You discovered they were there finally then, did he?
Yeah.
Look up, Ringo.
Yeah. It's just, I think when I first heard Come Together as like a younger, man in my teenage years, I remember thinking, this is a bit slow. I was quite into like punk and really, really rapid stuff. And over the years, a bit like you've just said, like, come to really, really love it and really, really enjoy it. And it's just a simple yet brilliant song, and people love it
for good reason.
Yeah.
You mentioned the other George songs as well. So is it track 2?
Track 2 is Something.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Not a big fan of Something.
No.
I've
got a real soft spot for Something. Have
why?
you seen the video?
I don't think I have actually. No.
It's just the four of them with their partners.
Oh, that'll do it.
It feels quite, it feels quite end of an era. They're all in like a meadow. It feels
fading into the distance.
Yeah, it feels like they're sort of wrapping things up a little bit. And we know they are wrapping things up a little bit because of the context of what happens next. But one of the things that I think Get Back really showed a lot of people was, for years, a lot of people thought that they were just at each other's throats during those end days. And it was pretty clear that they weren't. Yeah. And they were still working together. Yeah, there was tension. Yeah, there was problems. But they were still having a lot of fun. And Paul telling John to slow that down. And,
being right.
And then helping Ringo out with Octopus's Garden. There still was quite a collaborative effort going on there. And, Something as Paul has since said that's his favourite George song. And he does it in his live show.
Who am I to disagree with Paul then?
Well, I think a lot of people would disagree, but you can sort of see why McCartney likes that one, isn't it? It's quite obviously quite a soppy number, but it's like beautifully put together, like the chord progression.
Yeah,
something.
It's just one of those things. I can say I know it's a good song, but it's not something that I'm going to put on and go, I love this one.
Yeah, okay,
that's all right. I do want to discuss another song that's pretty soon after that. We've got I Want You, She's So Heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I first discovered this song via a Last Shadow Puppets cover.
Yeah,
Did you see that?
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah, that's an amazing cover that they do. Yeah,
good,
what a song. And maybe this is one of the reasons why I like Abbey Road so much. And I like, for a similar reason on the White Album, is the sheer like flip-flopping of genres and sounds and styles. Because if you're listening to those earlier records, the sort of 1964, 1965, a lot of the tunes are kind of in a similar, it's kind of rock and roll because it's the rock and roll explosion. But by the time you get to the White Album and then Abbey Road and Let It Be, they're kind of all over the place genre-wise. So yeah, you've got Come Together, then you go into Something, then you got Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which
Hello.
which was like a big...
It's so fun, isn't it?
It's so funny. I like it. And I like Paul's... Well, John Lennon would call it granny music, kind of song, When I'm 64 and Obladi Oblada and Maxwell Silverhammer, which very dark lyrics for such a jovial tune. You got the Moog synthesizer going on. You got Mel the roadie whacking an anvil with a hammer.
Shout out to Mel.
Yeah, it's a fun song. And then you've got Oh Darling, which I think is just an amazing song.
Paul's vocals and that are just roaring, aren't they?
Roaring, yeah.
Ripping it.
Really, really good tune. Then you go another curveball. You got Octopus's Garden. It's almost like a nursery rhyme that Ringo sings. And then you've got I Want You, She's So Heavy. And actually, to go from She Loves You, I
Well,
want
this
you,
is
she's
what I
so
was going to
heavy.
get
What
to.
a transition.
Yeah, I
of
want to
kind
hold
of-
your hand.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's got to be the horniest Beatles song, right?
Yeah.
I think that's John. I mean, not only he says, I want you so bad it's driving me mad. And then he says it again, but screams it.
Yeah.
Have you ever wanted someone so bad it's driving you mad? It's driving you mad?
Yeah. Well, potentially.
We've got Babe in the Way, I guess,
Yeah,
haven't we? So
yes,
there we
I
go.
do. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And just the style of that song, it kind of sounds like music which then got very popular in like early mid 70s. It felt like he was ahead of the curve a little bit with sounds heavy. It's very
Of course.
Yeah, it sounds quite like progressive. That kind of way, the mad way it builds at the end and just like turns off. It's an incredible song.
I think the bit where it basically repeats the entire song again, it's got the sort of swing drums on it.
Yeah.
You mentioned the collaborative idea of it. I don't think any person on their own is going to think, let's just start the entire song again with different drums. That's collaboration at work, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that definitely led Noel Gallagher to think, I haven't got to write a second verse anymore. I can just repeat the entire song again.
Yeah.
So we've got him to thank for Wonderwall's double verses. Also, one of the things of this podcast, we like talking about the live shows. Problem is, the Beatles played their last show in 1969. Did you ever catch the Beatles live, Chris?
I did not
Didn't
catch
catch
the
them
Beatles
live.
Well,
Why?
Yeah, they didn't. Well, they played up on the roof, didn't they? in
Yeah.
1969?
What was you doing that day?
But I was
DJing somewhere,
busy,
probably.
Yeah, I was
yeah,
DJing
yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah.
But they stopped gigging in 1966, didn't they? Because of the sort of screams,
The chaos.
the chaos, and they just that's another mad thing. You wouldn't really, you get some acts who don't perform live nowadays, but an act that big would probably be touring.
The machine behind it would make
Yeah.
sure they keep going.
Exactly, well, especially in this day and age, because people aren't buying music like they were back then. So they're very much a studio band for the last 3 years. But yeah, that amazing footage of them on the roof, iconic.
Pretty special, wasn't it? Can't talk about the album without talking about the artwork. I mean,
you got it up on the screen
got it
in
up
here.
on the
Very
screen.
nice.
It's a professional operation, Chris. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know what you was thinking. Talking points. I mean, where do we start? Shall
Yeah.
we get on to the Paul is dead rumours?
Yeah.
Let's get this dead and buried
Yeah.
quick as we can.
I love all the Paul is. There's lots of great podcasts out there.
Yeah.
Documentaries and all sorts about the old Paul is dead stuff. But yeah, this.
I mean, I've gone out barefoot before and wished I was dead, but that's different to being
He's walking
dead.
around London barefoot there.
And he's holding a cigarette. I've smoked too many fags before and wished I was dead, or thought I was dead. That's not an exaggeration. But I actually cycle past Abbey Road on my way to and from work every day. I live in northwest London.
Do you? Yeah.
And I just love high-fiving the tourists going past on my bike. It's pretty iconic,
There's
isn't
still
it?
the webcam, isn't there? You can just turn the webcam on. I remember years ago, I think it's probably still on, but you can watch Abbey Road live, just the actual road, and you can see the tourists constantly holding up
Getting in
traffic,
the way.
getting in the way of stuff. It must be, if you're a cabbie that has to do that route regularly, it must frustrate you no end.
But it's the unpredictability. You have a good day and a bad day there. When you go, do you know what, I'll try Abbey Road today. It can't be for fuck's sake. But what do you reckon? It's got to be, how did it chart on your Beatles top album covers?
Well, for the first few years, they were pretty simplistic, weren't they?
They were.
And then they got a little bit more out there. But it's by far the most iconic. It's my favourite album, so it is my favourite cover as well.
You had your photo there?
You know what? I have been there, but I haven't. I don't think I think I was on my own when I walked past it. And I didn't get a photo, but I should do one day. That would be a good. Maybe at some point.
We'll put it on the list, the to-do list.
To-do list next time.
And what do you reckon? Best point on the album for you? What's the big standout here? Big question, I know, but
Yeah, well, it's. We should talk about the very end because it ends with the end. They do the.
Or Her Majesty.
And exactly. We can talk about Her Majesty as well.
Her Majesty or Your Majesty?
Your. I don't know.
My Majesty.
You got me thinking now. Is it Her Majesty?
Hang on, whose Majesty
I think
is
it is
it?
Her Majesty.
Her Majesty?
Her Majesty is. Yeah, I think it's Her Majesty.
Her Majesty. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah. So they got that big medley of all sorts of tunes, and they end with the end. And often, not every Beatles Dub Club gig I often end the show with the a cappella of the end, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make, and with a bit of kind of reggae dub noises over the top, and that's often how I will end my sets. So it's always, what a beautiful way to kind of wrap up a career, wrap up, a kind of movement that they did, wrap up that legacy. And then 20 seconds later, you got this sort of little ditty that Paul has written, almost like a little...
Changes the vibe a little bit in the room,
song.
doesn't it?
I heard Nish Kumar talking about it on, it might have been the Your Personal Beatles podcast or something like that, which is a great podcast. There's so many good podcasts about the Beatles out there, but that's a really good one. And he sort of described it as you've got like a Monet painting, but in the corner, someone has drawn a little cock and balls. It's kind of like this great kind of way to wrap everything up. And then it's like, actually, no, we're just going to throw this in right at the end there, this little kind of silly ditty. And I quite like that. It might annoy other people, but I quite like that. It's a bit
of bonus Beatles.
Yeah, it is.
Do you not want the bonus or not?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's the bonus bits, and do you remember in kind of around late 90s, early noughties, a very popular thing that people would do on CDs is the final track would finish and then you'd have 10 seconds of silence and then you have some mad bonus track. Yeah. So they were kind of ahead of the curve a little bit with that. Do you reckon
that's like the first example of that happening?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But so probably that bit, the sort of mantra of the end, right at the end, it just brings back a lot of good memories.
I was going to say, it sounds like it had an impact on your life.
It just makes me think of some of the gigs, some of the DJ gigs that I've done with the Beatles Dog Club, some of the crowds, the festival crowds I've played to with it, and kind of thanks to sort of them and their back catalogue, really. Yeah. I owe them a fair bit.
And how big have your shows been?
Well, I tell you, probably the biggest one was Boomtown Fair in 2022. So Glastonbury's brought in big crowds, like thousands of people, sometimes 3,000-4,000 people. Boomtown Fair 2022, I got booked to play in the Hidden Woods on the Thursday. And for those who went that year to Boomtown Fair, it's a festival in Winchester. It's got a bit of a wild reputation.
Yes, it does.
For those who were there that year, it was very, very hot. It was 40 degrees. So I got there on the Thursday and already everyone looked destroyed. They looked... it looked like Sunday. It looked like Monday morning. Everyone looked knackered. I was doing the Hidden Woods, which is kind of this big area with natural canopy. I walked around the site a little bit, and if you were out in the sun, you were getting roasted, basically, absolutely burnt to a crisp. But if you went in one of the tent venues, it was like a sauna in there. As soon as you walked in, you'd just start dripping with sweat. So I thought... at that point, the Beatles Dub Club it was kind of the first proper summer where it was getting about. I had some amazing gigs at Glastonbury already. And I got to the stage. It was about 3 p.m. So quite early on, really. But people just wanted shade. People wanted shade. So there was a lot of people there already before I went on. I remember going on and just looking out. And I think it was 10,000 people or something like that. So it was people just forever. I think people would have come out to it to maybe watch the show, but definitely the weather. It was one of them where the weather forced everyone in. It was the only comfortable place on the whole site at that point in the day because you had this natural woodland canopy giving people a bit of shade. It was warm, it was pleasant. And because it was Thursday as well, I often say Thursday or Friday, you're going to get the better crowd, the better energy, because Saturday, Sunday, especially by Sunday, your festival crowds are getting pretty tired. So I love it when it's a good slot on a Thursday. As I mentioned, Glastonbury on the Thursday has been amazing.
Best night normally, isn't it?
Yeah.
Best night.
Yeah. Because everyone's fresh, everyone's excited, and you're not competing with those big stages as well.
So as a festival veteran, what's your big Glastonbury tip?
Big Glastonbury tip. I mean, it might seem a bit obvious maybe in this day and age. If you've been there quite a lot before, if you haven't been before, pace yourself.
Right.
Pace yourself. I'm sure.
I reach for the bottle of water.
As you reach for the bottle of water, yeah. Pace yourself. It's a massive site.
Yeah.
If you're going to Glastonbury for the first time, maybe you've managed to get a ticket and you're going there next year. The lineup will come out and you'll think, right, I'll watch them, then I'll watch them, then I'll watch them, then I'll watch them. And you might not realise that it's a 40-minute walk between that stage and that stage. So you're not going to be able to finish watching someone at 2:45, then watch this next act at 3 p.m. You got to go with the flow a little bit, really. You got to, it's really hard, I think, because when you spent a lot on a ticket, it's a lot of effort to get there. You sort of got this feeling that you want to do everything and see as much of the festival as possible, but you do risk kind of burning yourself out.
Speaking of burnout, what's your sort of party ethos? Do you get quite stuck in before your shows? Have you got a bit more of a sensible approach on things now?
Nowadays, way more presentable. Yeah, over the years.
Presentable with a choice of word. Okay,
yeah.
This sounds like something's gone wrong in the past.
Well, DJing is funny. Like I often tell people it's one of the few careers where you're almost encouraged to drink on the job.
Absolutely.
I remember, when I used to DJ clubs and pubs and bars, and they just assumed that you would want pints all night, and sometimes even like 10 years ago or whatever, I'd say, oh no, I'm having a night off, and the bar manager would be like, what, why don't you want to?
You're in a bar.
You're in a bar, you're DJ. People think you get the flow going a little bit better. You wouldn't show up to a job where you're operating heavy machinery and, what do you mean you don't want to have a drink? Have a shot. It's one of them. And, over the years, it kind of goes hand in hand. But I've had times where I've been really drunk when I've been DJing.
Yeah.
But I don't really do that anymore. I try and focus on trying to do a good job.
And getting booked for next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And actually this year, I've had about 8 months off drinking now, so I've had a really long. I'm my first sober Glastonbury.
Oh wow!
I had about to attempt my first sober Christmas since I started drinking. So, and what's happened actually over the last year is I've focused a bit more on trying to make the show a bit better and trying to put my heart into it. Because an interesting thing, for years I would DJ in clubs and people would be, in circles looking at their friends. Blah, 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 just having that club experience. And at festivals, a similar sort of thing as well. And then with the success of this Beatles Dub Club show, you come out and then everyone's like looking at you like you're a band. So I remember the first few times that started happening, it was kind of, I was like, oh, everyone's like looking at me. I should, and you play your tracks and you're doing your mixes and that sort of thing. But you do have time where you're like, I don't know what to do now. If you're playing guitar or playing drums, you just keep doing that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. It doesn't seem like you're, correct if I'm wrong, but from what I saw of your set, you're not really mixing as much, are you? You're playing these great mashups that you've made. How does it work, DJ-wise, for what your current set?
It's a mixture of like blends and some mixing. There's some elements where I'm just going from tune to tune to tune. Sometimes I will have guests join me, like like the horn section come on sometimes, and the
fun,
dancers
that was
come
good fun.
on. Yeah, they're great. So that gives it a bit more of a visual thing to look at. I am doing the shows quite often. Will be quite prepped, but what a nice thing is that I can go off in different directions. If it's like so
it's not overly rehearsed. You've got freedom to.
No, there's little routines that I will drift into, but. Yeah, so it's interesting, Boomtown Fair, very young crowd, party crowd,
Sure.
So I was playing the ravier stuff to them. But I've been booked for like 70th birthday parties.
Amazing.
I've done gigs and events to people who saw the Beatles the first time round. And they've come up and said, oh, I really enjoyed that. I saw the Beatles in Cardiff in 1966. Oh, it was amazing. So with them, with the older crowds, I might not go as ravey.
As heavy on the jungle.
As heavy on the drum bass and jungle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
got it.
So it's the nice thing is there's still room to maneuver there within the set, which is quite a nice place to be because it's not like I'm just doing the exact same thing every single time.
Not like David Guetta.
Not like David Guetta,
Just standing back and, it's funny, actually, listening back to the album this week, I think because of the context of knowing I was talking to you, there was a sort of really drum and bass style moment in the album.
Oh, yeah?
It was the transition into She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. It sort of builds and builds and builds. And I can almost imagine like Andy C dropping the 9 by Bad Company. Yeah. The way it sort of comes in, it's so unexpected. And it feels like some big drum and bass moment.
Yeah. That is a good moment. So at the start of She Came In Through the Bathroom Window.
When Paul's vocal comes in, it's building up.
Yeah, that is a good moment. Yeah, I like that a lot. Polythene Pam sounds... I was listening... to earlier, that the Lennon track where he's going, probably the most scouse he's ever gone. It sounds like a Buzzcocks song, that one, the way it's kind of delivered. It's quite sort of like punk rocky.
Snotty.
Quite snotty, yeah.
He's got a good legacy, John, isn't he? He's done all right.
Yes, yeah.
Done all right.
That medley is really all over the place, because then you've got the Sun King, which has got a touch of the kind of Albatross Fleetwood Mac going on.
Yeah.
You could easily place it on an M&S fine food advert, couldn't you?
Absolutely. I get hungry every time I listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, I think Golden Slumbers as well, like Paul's
amazing.
vocal on that. Just, I've been in Liverpool one day. My dad lives in Liverpool, and we always go down Matthew Street and
Nice.
Cabin Club. So this is in my wheelhouse. You're in very good hands today. But I remember like some kid just busting on the street, absolutely killing it doing Golden Slumbers.
Nice.
Unbelievable. My old man loves a busker.
Yeah.
Just throws on this. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
God, it's just great. The Beatles obviously quite synonymous around culture across the planet. If an alien were to land on Earth, I've heard a lot about the Beatles. How would you describe them to an alien?
You know what? That's a hard question.
I didn't say it'd be easy.
That's
Chris.
a very,
I'm making you
very
work
hard
for this.
question.
You're not getting your cake for free today.
Yeah. Thank you for the cake, by the way.
Good cake,
it was
right?
Delicious. Yeah, really, really nice. I would say, well, listen, biggest band on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Best band on this planet. Changed the culture. Mm-hmm. They were so important and so influential that 60 years on, two men are doing a podcast about them. Yeah, that's just kind of the scope of how big and how massive this band are. And I would say that they did a lot in a short space of time, which is one of the things that constantly baffles me, is how much they did in between 1963 and 1970. Just insane, really.
The lack of days off.
Yeah.
They didn't know what else to do with themselves, it seemed like, did they?
In a way, you sort of can imagine why they kind of fell out and burnt out and all went their separate ways. And
sure.
Just
the miracle it lasted as long as it did, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so I've got something planned for us.
Okay.
It's a quiz of sorts.
Yeah.
I think it's quite on brand. I've got some lyrics for you. You've got to tell me if they're by a Jungle MC or Paul McCartney. So,
okay, very nice.
Pretty good. This. As soon as I thought of that, I thought, this is going to work. Okay, Jungle MC or Paul McCartney. I got more flavour than the crisps of Golden Wonder. Is it a Jungle MC or is it Paul McCartney? There are bonus points if you get the Jungle MC right. If indeed it is a Jungle MC. I got more flavour than the crisps of Golden Wonder.
I'm going to say Jungle MC.
Correct. It's a Jungle MC. Which Jungle MC is it?
I don't know.
MC
Det?
You're not far off. It's MC Fearless.
MC Fearless, okay.
So you weren't miles off. Question 2. Don't take no mathematician or a man of science to work out that it's time to get down with compliance. Is it a Jungle MC or is it Paul McCartney?
It sounds a bit jungly still, that, but...
Or is he trying to throw you off?
I'm going to go Jungle MC.
Correct. It's a Jungle MC. I didn't give away who it was. I can just tell you who it was. It was MC X-Man.
X-Man, okay. Fair enough.
Question 3. It's the way we shake on the shakers. It's the way we bang on the big bass drum. Is it a Jungle MC or is it Paul McCartney?
It's the way we shake on the shakers. I'm going to go Paul McCartney for
You are
that.
correct to go Paul McCartney. It's Tropic Island Hum, which was released in recorded in 87, but it was released in 04.
Okay.
Down in the jungle, living in a tent. You don't use money, you don't pay rent. Is it a Jungle MC or is it Paul McCartney?
It sounds like Wings era Paul McCartney.
Does it?
Is it not?
It is. It's Wings.
Okay, great. Paul McCartney. Yeah.
Mrs. Vanderbilt by Wings. Yeah, very nicely done. This man knows his Jungle MCs. It's Paul McCartney's. When I gonna get it? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. When I gonna get? When I gonna get a Beamer, up and up that temperature, ride that Jaguar or Lexus? Cowabunga.
I mean, incredible lyrics.
Nicely done, right?
Paul McCartney would be proud to have written those lyrics, but I'm going to go Jungle MC.
Correct to go Jungle MC. It's a Jungle MC classic. Feel to have a stab in the dark about who it is.
Don't know. GQ?
It's Skibbity.
Skibbity.
R.I.P. Skibber.
Skibbity.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Skibbity, yeah.
Speed along the highway, honey, I want it my way. But listen to her daddy's song. Don't stay out too long. Is it a Jungle MC or is it Paul McCartney?
That's probably the hardest one.
Thank
I'm going to go
much.
Paul McCartney.
You are correct to go Paul McCartney. It's Wings, the back seat of my I've written cat. I think it's car. Pretty sure it's car. Okay, here we go. We've got 3 left, actually.
3 left, okay.
Buckle up. Deep in the jungle, looking for my drum when I felt an almighty rush coming on.
Deep in the
Jungle MC or Paul McCartney?
I see what you're trying to do, but I think that's Paul McCartney.
You are incorrect. It's MC Det. It's a Jungle MC.
It was his Det. Oh, no.
Oh, no, the Jeopardy here. Real Jeopardy.
First wrong answer there.
Was it really? You did well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Doing better than my presentation of the lyrics, I think, so far. Everybody going to stamp their feet. Everybody going to feel the beat. Is it Paul McCartney?
I think that's Paul McCartney.
It is Paul McCartney. It's Dance Around Tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that was an easier one, that one. When I get the feeling at the end of my toes, going to go in a trance, I get an itchy... I'll try that again.
Okay.
When I get a feeling at the end of my toes, got to go in a trance, I get an itchy feeling at the end of my nose. Is it a Jungle MC or Paul McCartney?
I hope that's Paul McCartney.
It's Paul McCartney. Gotta sing, gotta dance.
Yeah.
We have one more left, actually. I was incorrect. There's one more left. This one's actually really good, so it's worth the wait. Is it a Jungle MC or Paul McCartney? Introducing Mr. Skibber with the flavour for Raver and MC Fearless with the flavour for Raver. Check out MC Det with the flavour for Raver. Flavour for Raver, we entertain ya.
That's got to be Paul McCartney. No, it's got to be a Jungle MC.
It's not. It's Ringo Starr.
It's Ringo Starr.
I know. I'm as shocked as you are. This has been fab. This has been fun. Chris, I can't thank you enough for your time today. Where can people stay in touch with you and stay updated on what's going on in your world?
Yeah, so Beatles Dub Club stuff. Working on a new website at the moment. Hopefully that will appear soon. But basically at Beatles Dub Club across the socials. We're doing a tour in April, and then I'll be all...
Where are you hitting?
Well, London, if you're in London, we're hitting Fox and Firkin, which has been a great spot in Lewisham to play, doing Bristol Old Market Assembly, going up to Preston, doing the Ferret in Preston, doing Bodega in Nottingham, Stroud Brewery in Stroud, and we're going down to Plymouth as well and doing Steel Brew down there. I think that is all of them. We're doing a handful of dates supporting Craig Charles as well. I'm doing Craig shows next year in Cardiff, Lincoln, Cheltenham, and somewhere else as well that I can't quite.
And you're hitting up all the big festivals this year?
Festivals already been,
and the little ones,
quite a few of the little ones actually. So so a lot of what you tend to find is the little ones announce sooner,
yes,
because they want to get the lineups out there, get people buying tickets,
for the big boys,
and everything like that. So
you doing Truck Festival this year?
Not doing Truck Festival. Would love to do that one day.
Yeah, it's the first time going this year, so.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
should be fun. Again, I'm going to ask you once again. Blink twice if you are playing Glastonbury.
Yeah,
You've been a great host. A great host. Been a great guest, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me, William. It's been great. Loved it.
Hey, this has been This Album. I have been William Hann. Thank you very much indeed, Chris Arnold.